Summer 1999. The attempt to blow up the Dimitrov Mausoleum in Bulgaria's capital, Sofia. It took weeks for this most prominent communist relic to fall.
The body had been taken out in 1990 and buried in a cemetery, but the thing was still there and nobody knew what to do with it. Symbolic for communism, not very easy to get rid of. But of course, these figures are becoming increasingly less dangerous because increasingly this society is finding its balances.
Summer 2008, Bulgaria, an up-and-coming country. Outside Alexander Nevsky Cathedral in Sofia, souvenirs of the 50-year dictatorship are being sold. But the transition from dictatorship to freedom was a nightmare during the early 1990s. Bulgaria's success could not be taken for granted.
Most important was the consensus about the country's integration into Europe. The path to Europe was its key slogan. Europe said, the door is closed. But we approached them and made no mistakes.
On New Year's Eve 2007, Bulgaria hosted a big party to celebrate its accession to the EU. Bulgaria had completed an astonishing integration process. Only 10 years had passed since the collapse of its economy in 1997, when even the biggest optimists despaired over the prospects for a successful transition to democracy and a market economy.
Europe's politicians had understood that membership was the only solution. The war in Kosovo had shown that without integration this region would remain a source of instability.
I think it's a good demonstration of the transformative power the European Commission has in the European Union as a whole. It's a totally different country from what it used to be 10 years ago.
In 1996, Bulgaria was on its way to becoming a third world country. After the end of the Soviet system, post-communists continued to hold power and to prevent reforms. Now the economy and the monetary system started to collapse. Monthly per capita income dropped to $27 in December 1996.
96, the economy collapsed because they tried to do it in a socialist way. There was no bread, there was 2,000% inflation, and everybody came out. Beginning of February 97, the entire country was stopped because there were barricades on all the main roads, in the cities, outside the cities. And I was on one barricade in Sofia on the 4th of February, and the local reporter on one radio said that the barricade has just gone up outside of Mindya. And I thought, yeah, you know, my village has risen up. And 4 hours later, the communists resigned.
Even though we're a small village, we're also a democratic village, and 10 people came together and decided to put up a barricade.
At
the time, all the cars and lorries had to drive across the Balkan mountains. We blocked the only road still open, halting all traffic in Bulgaria for 24 hours.
Today, Evgeny Dainov is often drawn to the village of Mindya in the Balkan Mountains where he grew up. He's an author, musician and a university professor of political science. In the mid-90s, it was intellectuals like him who set out the vision of Bulgaria as a part of the West. At the time, much of the political elite was deeply confused about how to repair a failed transition.
My job and the other people's job was to convince the Union of Democratic Forces to get into the process, to keep it political, because they refused. The anti-communist party refused to get involved. They said, oh, another revolution, it's too dangerous. And we were saying, no, get in there because you need to give it a political direction. Because if it doesn't have a political demand, it may explode into chaos, into anarchy, into civil war, anything. We need a new social contract. Not only do we need a new government, we need a new social contract. This social contract should contain membership of NATO, membership of the European Union, and all the rest of it.
It was the first time in my life when I really saw that Bulgarians have this feeling of a national identity. And a democratic government came to power, and this was the reason why, afterwards, we entered EU, NATO, and there is no step back, which is a very positive thing.
Bulgaria had long been part of other empires, the Roman, the Byzantine, the Ottoman. For 5 centuries, Bulgaria was ruled from Constantinople, today Istanbul. But memories of the medieval Bulgarian kingdom survived, kept alive in remote Orthodox monasteries, like the Rila monastery in the Balkan Mountains. In the 19th century, the country managed to liberate itself from Ottoman rule with help from Russia. Now the dream of resurrecting the Bulgarian Empire of the Middle Ages turned into a curse. In the first half of the 20th century, Bulgaria fought 4 wars over neighbouring Macedonia, which it considered Bulgarian territory. It lost them all. This is still a cause of regret for some Bulgarian nationalists, such as the director of the National Museum in Sofia, Božidar Dimitrov.
За наша най-голяма изненада, когато приехме в 1991 година.
In 1991, we recognized Macedonia, but only because we didn't want anyone to think we had territorial claims. We thought the entire world should know that Macedonia is a part of Bulgaria. We wanted courageous leaders in Skopje to stand up and say, "Enough. We can't live like this anymore. We won't be accepted as members of the EU and NATO anyway, so we should become what we were 50 years ago, namely Bulgarians." But ideas to restore a greater Bulgaria gained no support. Indeed, under its first post-communist government, Bulgaria recognized Macedonian independence. The country thus avoided being drawn into any of the wars in the former Yugoslavia. For social scientist Andrei Reichev, this was a turning point, making possible Bulgaria's recovery. Bulgaria has lost its last 3 wars, World War I, World War II and the Cold War. Somehow Bulgaria has learnt its lesson, and Serbia maybe hasn't. The eternal Balkan conflict, the battle of countries who want to annex smaller countries, Bulgaria was the first to turn away from this. Bulgaria said, "We won't deal with these issues anymore." It was a great historic act. Bulgarian society could thus concentrate on the painful struggle to establish functioning institutions and bring about economic growth in one of the poorest countries of Europe. Danislav Sokolov works for SAPARD, an agency tasked to help Bulgarian farmers obtain EU funding. I drove 32,000 kilometers last year. It's a very interesting job. I see new businesses that have grown with the help of SAPARD. Fallow land is being cultivated again. We meet people who have worked very hard. At the beginning of the integration process in 1997, the Ministry of Agriculture didn't have a statistics department. It was not known who produced what in Bulgaria. Danislav Sokolov is visiting the Pavlov family. They owe their success to an unusual product. This is where future queen bees will hatch. 600 to 700 queen bees hatch here every week. During the 3-month season, we breed around 7,000 to 8,000 queens. We don't make a lot of money, but we make some. Yes, we earn some money. Father and son now want to market their queen bees internationally, but they need financial support. An advisor was hired for the paperwork. His application didn't meet SAPARD requirements, and the beekeepers did not receive any funds, for now. Unfortunately, there are a few companies who abuse the trust of farmers who aren't that familiar with the procedures. Mr. Pavlov's submission contained incorrect quotes. Suppliers were listed who don't even exist in Bulgaria. This was uncovered by the SAPARD assessment, so unfortunately the project didn't receive financial support. The beekeepers will apply for assistance again. Next time, Danislav hopes they will be successful. He believes SAPARD is a success. All the land we're driving past now used to be uncultivated. We only had very old equipment and technology. Thanks to SAPARD, we were able to bring in modern European technology. Now you can see how the condition of the fields around us has improved.
Hotels like this one have been subsidised by SAPARD since 2001. The goal? To promote tourism in rural areas. The owners were awarded more than €100,000 for their project. Is it this much paper or this much?
This much. We got a lot of help. In the beginning, we knew nothing about SAPARD. We made inquiries. There were a lot of advertisements on television.
Our department is the Internal Audit Department. We check projects and make sure all recipients meet the requirements. At the moment, we're supporting 3,500 projects.
But the fight against the misuse of funds and corruption has not yet been won. The EU decided to penalise fraud by stopping all payments of SAPARD grants at the beginning of 2008.
This doesn't discourage our employees, quite the opposite in fact. This confirms that we've done good work. Our system of internal monitoring was successful. We ourselves reported cases of fraud. That shows that we acted properly.
There is evidence of cases where companies used SAPARD money to buy old instead of new machines. The balance went into the pockets of government officials. Factory director Atanas Yanev can be pleased. His SAPARD project is clean.
We're currently processing between 10 and 20 tons of meat per day. The business employs around 250 people. 15 years ago, we started with just 3 people. At that time, we got up at 4 o'clock every day. We started work at 5. We came home at midnight, and we did this every day. It took months before we weathered the crisis.
Only recently has Bulgaria again become a net exporter of agricultural products. In the mid-90s, Bulgaria's agricultural production lay in ruins. It was during this time that Atanas Yanev started his business.
At the beginning, we were on the verge of bankruptcy 2 or 3 times a year. The business climate was terrible. There was no market, and there weren't any rules or reliable banks. Interest rates were at 10% per month. The conditions for SAPARD funding were completely clear. We could submit a proposal for projects up to €1.5 million, and half of this money would be provided by the EU. The money could be used for almost anything: business premises, transportation, machines. We used all of it for machines. We took out a loan for the building. I was successful. I managed to realize my dreams at a young age. That makes me optimistic about the future.
Besides corruption, organised crime has also remained a big topic. In the mid-90s, it seemed at times as if the whole economy was in the hands of criminal gangs. Racketeering, extortion and smuggling appeared to be the only paths to becoming rich.
Organized crime in Bulgaria is the price Bulgarian society is paying for the wars in former Yugoslavia. The combination of a weak state in transition, with a huge illegal market next door, back then created really very good conditions for organized crime to flourish in this country. We need to change the balance between the legal activities and the illegal activity that are a significant source of money and resources. It's not only the police, it's not only the judges, it's not only the prosecutors. It's the whole system of law enforcement. Many efforts have been done over the past 5-10 years to deal with this issue, and I think maybe we'll need at least 1 decade more.
Bulgaria is still widely perceived as a country of crime and corruption, but studies have shown that much has changed in these areas too. According to Transparency International, Bulgaria is doing better in tackling corruption than most of its Balkan neighbours. The economy has made spectacular progress and is growing by 5 to 7% annually. Unemployment has dropped from 17 to 6%. Direct foreign investment has increased from a few hundred to nearly €6 billion a year. Despite the global financial crisis, the mood at this spring's annual real estate conference held in a luxury hotel in Sofia is confident.
The main driver of the growth and of the main attractor for foreign investors is real estate. Because Bulgaria is a southern country with access to the sea, very good for developing second home and vacation homes destination. There are not that much other sectors apart of financial services and telecoms where you can invest, say, 100 million euros in Bulgaria. Bulgaria is a small place and big institutional investors prefer to invest significant amounts of money, so that's why real estate worked.
Ivo Prokopiev, although he's only 40, the prolific builder, publisher and financial expert is thought to be one of the richest men in Bulgaria. His career began in the mid-90s. Today he represents major international investors, such as the operators of the Sofia Business Park. He also develops huge building projects of his own.
It was relatively easy to do business in Bulgaria in the last 10 years. Because it was really quick economic development with a lot of opportunities around us. So it was difficult to make mistakes.
The lasting recovery after the collapse of 1997 was a huge opportunity for determined entrepreneurs.
There were plenty of cheap assets. So there were many business opportunities for long-term investments, for speculations. A lot of people made significant money during the crisis, but the net effect for the society was destruction of wealth.
Ivo Prokopiev started out as an economic journalist. At a time when con men and extortionists tried to fleece Bulgarian consumers, his paper, Capital, tried to report the facts. Capital is still the country's most important political publication. Since the 1990s, it's reported on mismanagement and criminal links in politics, but also on new entrepreneurs who earn their money legally. The paper is now being published by Prokopiev's wife, Galia Prokopieva.
These were the first transition years. Not everyone understands the market economy, how it works, where the money comes from, what's the interest rate. We do deal with politics and related stuff. It's all connected. We cannot simply write about business, not having in mind, especially in those years, in mind what's going on in the politics.
Independent media such as Capital frequently uncover scandals, most recently the embezzlement of EU funds in road construction. It was critical Bulgarian journalism that uncovered a scandal which led the EU to halt further payments. It also leads to change. A growing number of officials involved in corruption are losing their jobs.
And what the society here expects from the Union, from the Commission, in fact, is to press the local politicians and the governments to go through with the fight with the corruption, with the fight with the organized crimes, things like this.
Capital's journalists scored a spectacular scoop by revealing a meeting between the Bulgarian Interior Minister and a group of mafia bosses in Vienna in the run-up to EU accession. The minister had asked the mobsters to cut back on murders until after Bulgaria joined the EU. Capital got hold of reports of this meeting from the Bulgarian parliament.
We've published the stenogram of the hearing in the parliament when one of the generals who started the scandal explained what's going on in the Interior Ministry.
Interior Minister Roman Petkov was one of the most powerful men in the Socialist Party. People like him felt untouchable for a long time.
We published all of it, everything, not editing a word. And it was like a shock for everyone, really. Of course, we were threatened as a newspaper, the minister himself. What he said is that now is the time to show all the media what happens to them when they publish things like this. Though the next day he resigned.
Following the launch of economic reforms and the privatizations that started in 1997, nearly all large, unprofitable businesses dating back to socialist times collapsed. Only a few could adapt to the new circumstances. Near Stara Zagora, there are 3 huge coal-fired power stations. In 2000, they earned an entry in the Guinness Book of World Records for the highest sulfur dioxide pollution in the world. But now EU environmental standards apply. By 2011, the plants will have to meet EU requirements or shut down.
We started to feel the ecological problems that now get more publicity. Bruxelles has a complex business permit that respects European environmental directives. This imposes constraints on the company. The directives are not in our interest.
The factory, using outdated Soviet technology, is owned by a Bulgarian consortium. There are no marks to be earned here for efficiency or environmental awareness. People prefer to highlight the company's tradition.
For your information, I want to say that our factory supplies 70% of the town of Galabovo with heating. We signed a donation contract, and we have taken on the expenses incurred by heating public buildings, kindergartens, schools and hospitals.
The workers of this plant live in planned towns, such as nearby Galabovo. They will lose their jobs, but it doesn't have to be this way. A second factory nearby, Maritsa Istok 3, is one of the largest foreign investments in Bulgaria.
The power station was sort of built the late 1970s, early 1980s, typical of many power plants that were built in the area with very little concern for ecological measures. So we have a very big investment program. We're spending approximately 160 million purely on environmental issues. And probably the main one of these you would see as you were coming in is the operation of the FGDs. This is flue gas desulfurization. And this removes approximately 94% of the SO2 that was produced by the plant previously. We now have both FGDs in operation, and I'm very proud to be able to say we are the only fully compliant plant in Southeast Europe. So for this is for us a major achievement. But it doesn't stop there. The environmental program includes the building of effluent treatment plants, sewage treatment plants, and a very comprehensive water management program. Our power plant now is completely compliant with European environmental standards, so we have a minimal contribution.
Unlike the Bulgarian-owned plant, this company has a future and continues to invest.
Approximately 18 months ago, we actually refinanced and restructured the project, which allowed us to invest even more money, approximately another 100 million, in the refurbishment of the plant. And also, we were able to reduce the tariff for electricity as well.
Nevertheless, there were demonstrations against the converted power plant in the spring of 2008. The demonstrators claimed that while air pollution was no longer an issue, the ground and water were still being polluted. But the operator was able to prove that waste products were being disposed of in line with environmental regulations. By now, the protests have stopped.
This is a completely coherent program. We're not doing it piecemeal. And I feel little by little people are beginning to understand this.
Environmental protection is a new topic in the villages of the Balkan Mountains. A floodplain is being restored near the village of Mindja, financed by the Worldwide Fund for Nature. It is supposed to be a model for further projects in Bulgaria.
That's the old riverbed. The river has flowed in this channel for hundreds of years. But in the 1960s, the communists thought it would be better if it flowed in a straight line instead of flooding the fields. Now there is a project designed by experts. The river is to be dammed, and part of it is to be diverted into the old riverbed again. My objective was to save this treasure. A river is supposed to flow, create a microclimate around it, and attract animals. That's why I'm doing this.
It's hard to believe. Until a short while ago, bureaucrats had planned to turn this place into a landfill site. The people of Mindja managed to stop the project at the last moment.
And I wrote a very nasty letter to the company, which is foreign, it's non-European. And I said, look, it has come to my knowledge that you want to build this rubbish dump on my river. Now, if you come here, you will see thousands of people manning barricades. They will stop you, CNN will film everything, the European Union will write reports, and you'll end up with a hell lot of trouble. Do you really want this? But while all this was going on, the Bulgarian environmental legislation relating to rivers was changed, harmonized with European. So they could no longer dump their rubbish here, even if they wanted to.
Environment protection pays off here. Over the last years, almost 40 families from England have settled here. Like in many other Bulgarian villages, their renovated houses have brought colour and several million euros to the village.
We did take over quite a lot of the world some years ago, some centuries ago. So I guess we've still always got this idea that we must go out, away from our island, which is quite small.
So we took a week's holiday in Bulgaria, and we drove through the country, and we arrived in Veliko Turnavo, and we thought we liked the place, and we looked at about 50 houses, and this was the one we liked the most. So 4 days after arriving in Bulgaria, we bought a house.
In the UK, who can afford even a postage stamp for less than $250,000 these days? Here you can buy this house for, 30,000 euros. So why not? You've got land, you've got people, it's friendly, it's nice. If you're not afraid, well, go.
Some changes take time to get used to. Paying for the use of electricity is a new development in Stolopinovo, a Roma-inhabited suburb of Plovdiv.
Do I have my own factory? I had a stroke from all that worrying. It put me in the hospital twice. We want them to exchange the new electricity meters. They want too much money. I don't care if everyone has a meter, but they should count properly. We used to pay 3 leva. These bits of paper are rubbish. They should be burned. Look how dirty we are.
Every month, the electricity bills are collected in this porter cabin. An Austrian company has invested a lot in infrastructure and has agreed debt payment plans with many inhabitants. But there are still problems.
I have a boiler, that's all. Now look at this bill. Our country is a thief. I'm 60. What am I supposed to live off? Bulgaria is a thief.
These people have almost no education.
They hardly understand what they're being told. They think everything can be sorted out here. They don't just come to pay their bills, they want them reduced.
At the headquarters of the Austrian electricity company in Sofia, the employees are recalling the disastrous conditions before they took over the grid in Plovdiv.
There were cables everywhere, very dangerous, and the situation was really terrible. We repaired 17 trafo stations. We repaired 180 kilometers of lines, and we installed 8,500 new distant reading electrometers. And at the end of the year, all customers had 24 hours electricity. And it was very interesting and surprising even for us that more than 80% of them are paying their bills.
Just a year ago, there was no electricity here during the day because hardly anyone paid their bills. The grid operators can now read the meters remotely and disconnect individual homes remotely. Young Roma people working for the electricity companies are supposed to convince the inhabitants that the bills need to be paid and that with electricity, Stolipinovo has a future. Young entrepreneur Abdul Somet Veli wants to open a bank branch here.
I think we have to lead by example, because other companies, never mind what they do, don't have any hope. They are scared because they heard from the media that Stolipinovo is like a jungle. But that's simply not true. It's the same with Easy Credit. They are the first who want to open an office here, and I guarantee that within a year other companies will come here too.
Не по-късно от една година ще започнат и други компании, ще видят, че нищо не им пречи те да отворят такъв офис.
Sofia also has a Roma settlement. Like many children here, Martin is on his way to a school outside of his district. The hope is that this way, by attending school with Bulgarian children, he'll be able to improve his chances to find a job later.
I've very often heard discriminatory statements. There is no Roma culture, there is no Roma language, it's only a dialect, a mixture of other languages. The education system has never accepted that there are children in this country whose first language isn't Bulgarian, but Turkish or Romani. That's why the choice between segregation and desegregation isn't difficult. If we want to achieve something, if we want to have children who can achieve things, we have to choose the model of desegregation.
This educational program for Roma is new. The American busing program for the benefit of disadvantaged African Americans is serving as a model. This also means a lot more work for the teachers.
Who is your best friend? Martin is
Some of these children do not have textbooks, and I put down the lesson, the text they are going to read. Everything I write on the blackboard, everything, new words, transcription, the Bulgarian meaning, the lessons, and it is very difficult sometimes. I put maximum efforts, but results are not always as we are expecting.
At the start of the process, there was a lot of resistance. Many in the administration didn't want to accept such a program. Politicians also had a hard time making this decision. It meant admitting that there is discrimination in Bulgaria.
Политическа така общност, да наречем, на политиките въобще, че има дискриминация в България.
During communism, the state made sure everyone had a job and a home. When the system broke down, many Roma were among the first to lose their jobs.
Some got involved in the suitcase trade, small-scale import-export businesses between Bulgaria and Turkey. Others worked as day labourers on construction sites. Yet others became criminals. It seems that Roma society has always lived on the edge of the law.
Private initiatives have only started in very recent times. Romani Bart and Misha Georgiev, along with a number of Roma women, initiated the school program. Romani Bart also provides legal advice to Roma people in conflict with the law and brings lawsuits against discrimination.
Romani Bart recently brought a lawsuit against the capital city. It was about the horse carts in Sofia. People used them to collect rubbish and clean cellars. Suddenly, we were told that having horse carts gave a European capital a bad image. We asked them, if you prohibit the horse carts that feed entire families, will there be an alternative for them? They just told us no.
Bulgaria has always been proud of two things: its education system and its athletes. In communist times, female Olympic medalists and world champions were churned out in the Levski Sports Club in Sofia. The end of communism has also changed the world of sports. But former world-class gymnast and coaching legend Neschka Robeva is here to stay. The training program is almost as tough as it used to be.
I have to do 4 hours a day. We go to school in the mornings. Some of us go to a sports college. In the afternoon, we train here for 4 hours, and then we go home to rest and study. The trainers came to the kindergarten and selected me.
The national championships will soon be held. Who will win?
Who knows? Probably the one that works hardest. Now that I'm older, I see things differently. I prefer to work with children now. I have to make more compromises, but I can give them a feeling of self-respect that builds on their successes. For a long time, during the transitional period, opinion spread that discipline has something to do with a totalitarian system. Discipline became a dirty word. That created a completely wrong mindset in the entire country. This nation had no experience with democracy. It didn't understand that discipline, and particularly self-discipline, are the most important things in the new system.
Neschka Robeva knows that private initiative is what counts now. She created this dance theatre group for her former gymnasts.
My group goes on tour quite a bit, and the people like our performances. The money is only enough to survive, but we're happy because we can do something nice and be successful with it.
The decline of state support for top athletes has changed everything. There is big uncertainty.
Last year, our heating bill was 5,000 leva. We don't know what to expect next year. We don't even know whether we can keep this club or the trainers. There is a lot of uncertainty. Those who make long-term plans are foolish dreamers or optimists.
With the end of communism, a new civil society emerged. Non-governmental organizations in Sofia have played a crucial role in overcoming the 1997 crisis and pushing for EU accession. Grassroots activism is now spreading, even to the most remote villages.
When I was little, I went for walks with my mother through the village. That took hours, because everyone stopped her and said, "Verka, come, let me give you something." Maybe that put a spell on me as a child. I think I have been literally spellbound by these things. My mother died, my grandmother died, and both were closely connected to this place.
During the 90s, Diana Ivanova worked for Radio Free Europe in Prague. In 2003, she founded a festival in her mother's village. Painters, musicians, theatre and movie people meet here to develop art projects together with the locals. Practical matters are addressed too, rebuilding the collective schnapps distillery and retrieving the bell that was stolen a few years ago.
Здравейте, извинявайте, че се забавих.
This is another director and another actor who are interested in the bell.
Like in many Balkan countries, socialism depopulated the villages. This is another story the artists are interested in.
I lived here my entire life until I got married at 17. Then, in 1953, we went to Sofia for 3 years when Vlado was a soldier. That was it. I came back in the holidays. There's also a financial side because the people are renting out houses. They rent out rooms during the festival, so they have an additional income. 6 or 7 people in the village are profiting from the festival in this way. When you work in a small town like Belorechka, you really begin to understand that it is a microcosm of Bulgaria, where you can see everything. You can see, for example, why people throw their rubbish into the river. You stop condemning them for their stupidity or lack of education. You can see that they only do that because there are no rubbish bins, and there haven't been any for 10 years now. Everyone has some place he or she loves. That means a place where he can change something. I think that's what we're trying to do here, to change, on a small scale, things that have led to this situation.
There is also change in the nearby Iskar Valley. Also here, the issue is water. 9 small sluices will supply the entire valley with electricity in 10 years' time and contribute to economic growth. The first sluice will start operating this year. At the moment, the river is still polluted by untreated effluent from Sofia, but there already are plans for the near future. The goal? The complete revitalization of a landscape whose beauty was once legendary in Bulgaria.
This is the water level. Here, small recreation homes will be built directly by the riverbank. We will create beautiful spots where tourism will flourish. That's exactly what we were discussing just now.
Много хубави места за развитие на туризма, това, което говорихме допреди малко.
The valley's capital, Svolga, was once a classic summer resort.
Едно време до 1964 година.
In 1964, when the Iskar River was still clean, the people of Sofia came to Svolga to relax. There were special weekend trains to bring them here.
влакови композиции, които
They bathed, went fishing and relaxed.
по поречието на река Искър в района на Своге.
And on Sunday afternoons, they returned to Sofia.
И в неделя, след обяд, обратно си ги е връщало към.
Around 10 years ago, the power station project was publicly advertised. An Italian consortium won the bid. Today, the company director has to report to the municipal council. The municipality gets 10% of all profits and has a say in all decisions.
Има много неща, които можем да правим. Значи, сферите и
There are many things we can do with that. Our infrastructure is very diverse and in very bad condition.
Здравеопазване, образование. Затова смятаме
Healthcare, education, roads, our water and sewage systems, our wastewater treatment plants. 90% wouldn't be enough to improve the situation quickly and to build a normal environment we all want to live in.
Да изградиме наистина една нормална среда, каквато искаме всички да живеем.
We meet the project's chief engineer in Sofia. He is a young Bulgarian who emigrated to Italy in the early 90s. Now, like many others, he came back home.
I've never built a hydroelectric power plant. In fact, I've never had anything to do with energy. This is only the second time in the world a pneumatic cushion is being used to lift a sluice 6.5 meters. We're really using modern technology. It allows us to have more green space, and we used 40% less concrete. So we harm the environment less, and at the same time we're saving money.
This is also part of the job, dealing with authorities who have little experience with innovation.
The first time I went to the Water Management Agency, they told me this is not possible, that they wouldn't even talk about it, that it's absurd. We couldn't show them anything. The second time we went there with plans and photographs of existing projects. We said, look, it exists and permission has already been granted for it in an EU country.
Like many former emigrants, Plamen Dilkov is now thinking about staying.
I was away for 15 years. My children were born abroad. My family is still there, but I was homesick. Everything started getting better at the end of the 1990s. 7 years ago, there was no security. It was even dangerous to walk the streets at night. These days, Sofia is quieter than any other European capital. Now one can do whatever one wants to do here. It's not a coincidence that so many are returning. Bulgaria had become depopulated. Now they're returning from all over the world.
This is another of the people who have returned. Iskra Angelova used to work for a TV station in the United States.
My friends say that the guests are very intelligent, interesting, bright. Of course, there are a lot of people who dislike it and think that it's too pretentious, snobbish, or too intellectual.
Дами и господа, Евгений Дайнов.
In Iskra's new show, famous Bulgarians are asked to talk about their lives. Today, Evgeny Dainov is one of her guests. For Iskra's generation, he was a role model.
And when I saw him now, I thought that maybe he's a little bit disappointed, maybe a little bit sad, because he's not very satisfied with the political situation, with things that they achieved, because they were the guys who actually started the whole thing. And now, 18 years later, most of the Bulgarians feel disappointed. I am not one of them. I believe that we have our destiny in our own hands, and now when we have the opportunity to do what we're able to, the most talented, the most smart, the smartest, the most educated, the most innovative people will succeed, I hope.